That's perfect. Yeah, we don't know if Julio Jones is coming back for COVID, but the new rules will impact that since it's only a 5-day quarantine.
Yeah, they completely embarrassed by that game Monday night. The league was.
What was wrong with the game Monday night?
You're kidding. You're kidding.
Yeah. No.
Let's switch that. The Dolphins lose 21 players and use their fourth string quarterback. How would you feel as a Dolphin fan?
I would feel that it was one, the Dolphins don't have a fourth string quarterback. It was COVID.
You know what? Either did the Saints, Omar. Either did they.
Oh, he's been on the roster all season.
You never passed it down. He never played it down.
Hey, that's how good quarterbacks were developed once upon a time, Dave. How I would like to get back to developing quarterbacks.
Well, that's how Tom Brady was. That's how Tom Brady was developed.
Exactly. That's how Aaron Rodgers was developed. We got to get back there.
No, Aaron Rodgers was a second string quarterback, not the fourth string quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, Tom Brady was.
He was the fourth quarterback kept by the Patriots.
Yeah, he was.
At a time, everybody only kept three quarterbacks. I mean, that was.
Yeah, but people like you always tell me the brilliance of Bill Belichick and their genius. And
well, you got to call it. You got to call it like it is. I mean.
Yeah, whatever. All right. Okay. Let me get myself ready here. Dave, you are segment 2 leading, I think. Yes. Segment 2 leading.
Yeah, I got.
All right, we're ready to go. Hold on.
I saw the ambush questions, Omar. I saw those ambush questions you picked out.
Sometimes they ambush me. We're ready. Two months ago, most of us threw this Dolphins team in the trash can. The team was 1-7 in a tailspin, headed to the top of the draft. Didn't even have their own draft pick. The Dolphins were arguably one of the worst franchises in the NFL again, dysfunctional again, a lost franchise. But Brian Flores kept blaming it himself and his coaches, kept saying that they were going to fix it. The players kept committing to what they were coaching. Players kept saying that they needed to trust one another. Tua Tagovailoa kept getting injured. Then he got healthy. Then the defense started playing like we remember them from 2020. Giants. And on Sunday, Miami pulled off a 20-3 victory against the New Orleans Saints that lost about nearly 24 players to COVID. But these are the circumstances of 2021. This is the COVID era of football and sports. The Dolphins became the first team in NFL history to lose 7 straight games and then respond by winning 7 straight games. Only the Kansas City Chiefs have a longer winning streak in this season. The Dolphins are one of the hottest teams in the NFL, and people like Dave Hyde will say it's the caliber of opponents they play, it's the caliber of quarterbacks, but right now, no defense is playing better than the Miami Dolphins, who got 8 sacks against the New Orleans Saints. It's a remarkable feat, and now the Dolphins are sitting in the final wildcard spot for the AFC. Happy New Year's to all our X's and Omar followers, everyone in Dolphins land. Dave, is 2022 the year that makes you a believer in the Miami Dolphins?
The beginning of 2022 or the end of 2022?
I'll take the beginning. The beginning.
Let's talk the beginning. I'm not a disbeliever. Okay, I'm not. It's a remarkable feat to win 7 in a row. As I've said throughout this, when they won 5, that's remarkable. 6, remarkable. 7, remarkable. This isn't a binary discussion. It's not, oh, the schedule let them win 7, or, boy, it's a remarkable, unfathomable feat that they've won 7. There's a combination of the both. There's room to have rational thought of both there. It is a remarkable feat, and they've been helped by the schedule. Okay, that's my thought in this. You cannot tell me Monday night's game, that was a farce of a game. That really was. You players have no replacements in the front 7 on defense, down your best offensive line. I mean, you can go through the roster. And so, I mean, look, it is what it was. There's no reason to apologize for it. But let's not pretend it was some monumentous feat by the Dolphins to win that game. I mean, that was the easiest game on the schedule. Easiest game on the schedule, not even close. Not even close. Okay, so when we say they've won 7 straight, yes, that's especially where they were. That Brian Flores held it together, that the players kept coming together. You know, they deserve everybody's applause for that. But yes, they were helped by the schedule. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with it, but you got to put it out there that yes, they were helped.
Let's just get straight to the first question, which will make Dave have to address his opening monologue here.
Again.
This week against the COVID depleted Texans, Dave.
That's very fair. They blew it. They blew probably their season by losing that game. And that shows you a young team with a young head coach, first-year head coach, wasn't ready for that. Okay, and they just blew it. Okay, there's no other way to say it. Does that address it? Do you want me to go on? I mean,
the way I look at this season, and I said this when they were 1-7, they were 3 unfortunate plays from having 3 more wins. We could be.
You know what? They were a fortunate play from being winless too. I mean, you can do that with every. The Minnesota Vikings have lost, I believe, 9 games, 8 or 9 games by 7 points or less. That's the NFL. It comes down to 1 or 2 or 3 plays. You know, half your schedule's that way. How many times do I have to say it? It's a great feat that they've won this many games in a row. Okay, but you can say that, and can you also, or would we have the ability to hold another thought here? That the defense is winning the games and Tua is being asked to do just enough. Okay, if you want to compare it to Justin Herbert, the Chargers have the 31st ranked scoring defense. Justin Herbert goes into every game having to score points, knowing this offense, and he has better help around him on offense. I get it. He's got to score points. He's got to win the game. Tua is being asked, honestly, not to lose the game. Don't make the mistakes. You know, make just enough plays because this defense is winning you the game. The defense is giving up 11.7 points over this stretch. So you're, as an NFL offense, can you score on average 12 points a game? Okay, yeah, you should be able to. Okay, so
maybe for this team.
I didn't bring it. The question was about the Chargers.
I didn't mention Justin Herbert. I
know what the question was referring to. I mean, let's not play games here, okay? know what the question was. And just so everybody watch, Omar picks out the questions. He was ready. He just ambushed questions.
It was sitting there. What was I going to do with it, Dave? Just ignore it? The people want to know.
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it.
If you give Tua the weaponry that Herbert has, the line that Herbert has, even the running game that Herbert has, which isn't that great, but it's better than what Miami's got, which has been bottom 3 all season, I think he produced a top 15 offense in the NFL. Now, if you give Justin Herbert Miami's defense, maybe they're in Miami's position in possession of a playoffs. On a Sunday, because on any given Sunday, Jacksonville and Houston can sneak up on you.
Look at Omar. Look at Tennessee. They lost to Houston, and they lost to another bad team. Is it Jackson?
Jets, I believe it's the Jets.
The Jets, correct? The Jets. So again, all credit to the Dolphins that they've won 7 in a row.
It's about taking care of your business when your business is in front of you. And the way that I look at this season, there aren't many close wins. I believe the Patriots were a close win.
I mean, the Jets at home was a close win.
Jets at home, yeah, but Tua let them back in. Then he finished it off. It was, but it technically wasn't. The Jets didn't really have that much, Yes, I'm saying the caliber of
that's how you lose. That's how you lose to a bad team. They almost and they pulled it out.
The point is, I think you're always as Cam Wake, and Cam Wake was the one that taught me this, and I truly over the years studied it. 3 plays determine the outcome of an NFL game. And you never know where those 3 plays are going to come or which one was those 3 plays. But you add them up and you collectively look at it and you finish the season. It could have been Austin Jackson whiffing on one of his many blocks and getting Tua hurt, or Jesse Davis doing the same thing. It could have been one of those plays that will dictate the outcome of the game. The point is, 1, you got to make more plays than the other opponent. And 2, you got to rise to the occasion. The one thing I will say about the Dolphins, with the exception of Tampa Bay and the Bills, they play to the caliber and level of their opponent, no matter what that level is. And there's some negative to it, and then there's some positive to it. Can they finish the games?
See, I don't agree with that, Omar. I think they've beaten the opponents they should this year.
Not Atlanta, not Jacksonville.
Okay. But they've lost badly to a couple opponents that are much better than them. Tampa Bay jumps out to mind, right?
Those opponents are better than them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Are they contenders? No. I think the Bills and Tampa Bay prove that. But when we're taking the contenders off the table, Dolphins are right up there with the playoff teams that, tell me the team outside of Kansas City and Tampa Bay that would just mollywop them.
Buffalo did twice this year.
Yeah, so. Buffalo. But I think if they got a third.
Yeah, I would say maybe the top. We'll get into that. Let's go. Chris has our next question. The yardage was terrible, but does 29 rushing attempts Monday night make this RPO offense work better?
I mean, no matter what the rushing attempts are, the R in RPO stands for run, and you got to do it. It's like you can't take the RPO off. You can't take the R off RPO and think the offense is going to work. Tua just needs 2 to 3 yards on first down. Would it be great if he had more? Absolutely. But they've been running the ball 30 times a game and not getting anything, but the offense remains efficient because Tua is efficient. Tua's really making the RPO go. Now, what I would like to see moving forward, we saw it against the Saints, more Duke Johnson, more Philip Lindsay. They're working on the outside zone runs. It doesn't look great right now, but maybe that they still have their top two defensive ends, which were killing Miami. And I like Duke Johnson and I like Philip Lindsay. And I think they could be a 1-2 punch that can help this team moving forward. And yeah, it's just adding a couple more pieces to it, to the run game. But yeah, the RPO, you have to run. You absolutely have to run, because if it doesn't, teams are just going to pin their ears back and hunt the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, the importance of running three, even if you're getting 3 yards. I mean, it gives some physical foundation to the offensive line to try to get to, and it keeps the defense, honest, where they're not just going to go in and try to crush.
And what people don't understand is and I wrote a column for our special section that got me a week suspension, explaining the RPO a little too well. And the whole foundation of the RPO is nobody knows, including Tua, whether it's going to be a run or a pass before the ball is snapped. Nobody knows. The offensive linemen don't know. The wide receivers don't know. The quarterback, he thinks he knows, but it's based on what the defense does. He has indicators, and the indicators tell him whether he's handing the ball off or he's keeping it and throwing. Now, everything has to be quick. So all these people are saying, oh, well, why is Tua throwing the ball so quickly? That's the RPO offense. You didn't object to it when you watched Alabama score as many points as they did, but that's because Alabama had actually a good offensive line and good weaponry and a good running game.
They have about 7 first and second round picks on the offense going against lesser talent. So yeah. The question, Omar, I'm curious, is RPO here to stay in the NFL?
Formation. Nobody's playing smash mouth football with the exception of the 49ers and the Titans.
Tampa Bay.
At times. The Ravens do, but it's just not a brand of football that you're going to play anymore. And
we named 4 of the top teams in football, though, right there.
Hey, if you want to talk about investing in running backs and running games, I'm all for it, Dave. I am a big believer in that. I do believe that you win playing that style. And New England runs. New England runs,
yeah.
New England runs, but they run RPO as well. So I mean, and that's part of my issue with the national perspective and narrative about the Dolphins and the Patriots. They're the same team, the exact same team, except one has a running game and an offensive line, and the other doesn't.
Right. Yeah, I mean, one has a full offensive idea of what, and the Dolphins are trying to get by with more limited running game. I mean,
they have an idea.
Limited passing game. I mean, so okay, Omar. Eric wants to know, why is Jesse Davis still playing right tackle?
Woo!
I'll have a drink of water while you answer here.
I am a card-carrying member of the Jesse Davis fan club. It has been a rough year for us. Rough year for multiple reasons. As I said, heading into this game, he had the biggest and baddest matchup of the entire game, again going against Cameron Jordan. He allowed 2 sacks. He did not play great. But to be honest with you, one, there was no other backup on the team. That, if you do recall, the backup offensive line all caught COVID, and your entire backup unit was the only alternative to Jesse Davis at right tackle is Robert Hunt at right tackle. and Jesse Davis at right guard, or Solomon Kinley at right guard, or Robert Jones at right guard. And clearly, the Dolphins are committed to Robert Hunt being a right guard. So they're not making that investment. They're not. And in fairness to Robert Hunt, he is the only good offensive lineman on that offensive line. So he is the only buildable piece on that offensive line at the spot that he's presently playing. Maybe Liam Eichenberg can be turn out to be a decent player at guard or at right tackle. He's not a left tackle. Austin Jackson, I'm getting to the point. I'm this close to being done with it. This close. I thought moving him to left guard would help him salvage his career. He's getting destroyed.
It's about the margin of you saying, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
He cannot handle stunts.
I think if Tua could fire his offensive line, he probably would. And it's an indictment to Brian Flores. He's failed his team from a hiring standpoint on offensive line. And Chris Greer, who has failed his team from a talent acquisition standpoint on the offensive line. At this point, yeah, I know there's 2 weeks left in the season, but the fact that you don't have any quality backups, there is none, is quite disappointing. And, I know they made 2 trades to try to supplement it, but you saw this problem early and you didn't do enough.
Yeah, you talked about it all through training camp, that this, and, meaning draft picks and young players, they'll come together. And, that the game against the Jets tells you they were playing the 31st run defense in the league. Okay, now they went up in weight class and played the Saints, who they had no replacements on the line, but they were very good on the line. The Saints, they got worn down by the late in the third quarter. They just had nothing left. But in fairness to Jesse Davis, okay, and I'm not defending him. The play right before half, the last play, where Tua gets sacked. They're sitting on a 50-yard field goal. It's 3rd and 2, and Jesse Davis gets beat, and Duke Johnson runs right by him. He could have chipped Cam Jordan, and he gets sacked. That's bad. It
was a cornerback.
The only thing is Jesse Davis has been pass rusher. Those are the results you get. Okay,
they did give him a lot of help during the game, which they had to. That's just what you're going to have to do. It is very clear and apparent that you need a better right tackle, and that's the starting point for the offseason. Whether you do it in the draft or free agency, you definitely have to address this. Thomas has our next one. Are there any run blocking schemes that would work for this group of linemen? And
you know what? They would have tried them if they thought there was something that's really going to
outside zone. They're working.
We're in game. We're going into game 16. Okay, they've had 8 months plus to work with these guys. If there was a simple, hey, let's change the scheme, minor tweak to the schemes or something, we would have been there by now.
I am at the point where I picks that Mike Rodita resurrected himself from. I'm at the point where I'm benching Austin Jackson for Solomon Kinley. And the reason why I'm saying that is because while Austin is an asset in the run game, let's not pretend like the run game is very good. And Solomon, there's one thing that he can do, and that's pass protect. He's much like John Jerry, who wasn't helping you in the run game, but you weren't bullying him to the quarterback. He was he was going to anchor down and he was going to protect the quarterback. At this point, I worry more about Tua's health and safety than I do. There were so many free rushers against New Orleans, and Tennessee is going to bring it. And you got Jeremy Simmons on that defensive line, and he's probably the best defensive tackle in the NFL. Second best, Aaron Donald. And you're going to get your you-know-what kid. In all game. And if I'm Tua, I don't want those problems.
All right. We've been here before, Omar. As a franchise, playing December games that matter, then falling flat when a playoff berth is on the line. We watched it last year when Miami got beat up by backups in Buffalo in a win-and-you're-in scenario. We've seen it throughout the decade, Adam Gase-led teams, Joe Philbin, Tony Sparano teams. When the stakes get raised, the Dolphins often fold their hand, with the exception of 2008 and 2016. It's not 2024, which fits the every 8-year playoff cycle. What will make this season, this time, different?
You know, Dave, back in 2018, I fell in love with this quarterback that was playing at Alabama. Took a beating against Clemson, but kept fighting back. While he doesn't have a great arm, he's tiny, he's fragile. He does have an intangible that you rarely find in quarterbacks. There's something about him that makes him more efficient and rises to the occasion and delivers when his team needs it. Tell me the fourth quarter game that we played this year where Tua didn't leave the field with a lead. There wasn't one. He has delivered in most instances, and in those games where he doesn't throw that interception or doesn't lose the ball because he gets blindsided by a blitzing defensive lineman or linebacker. If he can protect the ball, you not only have a chance, this defense can. And that's why I'm saying this December will be different. That's why I believe that this is the year. And I've been skeptical previously. And initially when they won 4 straight, Dolphins fans like, we can win 9 and get to the playoffs. And I was just like, yeah, sure. Have you seen this franchise? You must be new. But there's something I sense that's different about this team. They have a locked-in focus. They're getting better. If you haven't noticed, every facet of this team is getting better, except for receiver. Even the
offensive line, Omar.
They've been playing better. They took a whooping against the Saints, but if we're going to study them for all of December, best. And this is the playoffs for the Miami Dolphins. You lose, you go home. Yeah, you play against the Patriots in the season finale, but you got to win if you want to get to the dance. And I like Tua's chances. I like Tua's moxie. I like his locked-in focus, Dave. He is ultra critical of himself. And I get it. He's probably not playing up to his expectations, but he's playing pretty good. 94 quarterback rating, 16th best quarterback in the NFL. Yeah, he's not Justin Herbert. He's not Joe Burrow, but he also doesn't have Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow's weapon or offensive line or run game. And
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The way he's carried himself, as I've said, you can't help but root for him. Okay, what he's been through the last 2 years, you can see it in confidence. Now, where you have to draw the line? He can't be asked to carry this. And I think I'm afraid you're scripting that he's going to carry them to a victory.
Oh,
I don't think.
I do believe he can.
Huh?
I do believe he can. I do believe he can carry them to a victory. There's nothing
I think the formula is set up for him to accompany them to a victory. Okay, the formula is set up for this defense to get the lead and not ask the offense to do more than it can. And I'm not singling out two of there. I'm talking to the whole offense. This is not a good offense. Okay, and the way they've won in the formula is the way they're going to have to finish the season, which is the defense holds the other team at bay, and they can do that. They can do that to this Tennessee offense. It's not a great offense.
I think that if they're trailing by 4, in those situations in practice, but I believe that he can rally them back to a victory.
He can. I mean, I'm not saying he can't, but that's not how you want the season, the day to go. That's not the way. I mean, he brought him back against Atlanta, and the defense gave up after the pick 6 against the Jets. He brought him back. So it can happen, but the formula that they've really won on is by not asking him to do that, by the defense holding the other team down. And I mean, 11.7 points. Okay, 11.7 points is what the opposing teams are getting over this stretch. That means you don't have to do a lot on offense. And that's, they're going on the road too, in a tough place to play. Tennessee's 6-2 at home. That's only behind Kansas City 7-2 at home this year in the AFC. Okay, so, but Tennessee isn't the Tennessee matches up well how they can win.
Yeah, and they've got two their offensive linemen in Taylor Lewan and Nate Davis. Their starting offensive linemen are sidelined with COVID. Now, there's a possibility that they could get them back before Sunday's game, but that's got to help you against Ryan Tannehill, who we know has absolutely no pocket presence. Let's get to our next question, which comes from Dolphin Rob. What do you think of Coach of the Year chances for Coach Flores? Does 1-7 start disqualify him, or does keeping this team together through that storm exemplify what the award is about?
What's the award? Is it Coach of the Half Year? Because he's got my vote. Coach of the Half Year, you betcha. You are the winner, far and away, hands down. Congratulations, Brian Flores. It's Coach of the Year. It's Coach of the Year. I mean, you have to put that 1-7 into that. And they'll be about 8-7 going in. They'll have a chance to go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, they're right where I expected them to be. Okay. And I was coming in a very bizarre fashion, but
yeah.
Look, I think Flores did a great job holding the team together. And as I say, he's a tough guy. He demands his players be tough. Okay. That's where you want your team to be. Okay. So there are so many components.
They're not really a tough team. They're not. They're
well, I mean, tough from the standpoint they could have thrown it in at 1-7. Oh, you wrote a column about that today. I mean, they could have thrown it in. Okay, and so tough in that regard. They're not physically, certainly on offense, they're not run the ball tough.
Yeah, that's what's a little surprising to me and a little troubling. The identity that he's always wanted on offense they don't have, and that's on his shoulders because his offensive hires have been troubles. Offensive hires and decisions and staff have been quite trouble. Kansas City, Indianapolis, I think their coaches, probably the front runners, but I really can't name a fourth coach who's done a better job than Brian Flores. I mean, even look at Arizona. They're flatlining at this point in the season. You need to be playing well at this point in the season. And generally, that's what Flores teams do. They play better in December than they do beginning of the year. Now, if they can only get the start right, maybe they have a chance. I keep telling you about those 3 wins, Dave, that just escaped them. A pass interference call against the Raiders. Maybe.
Don't you think every team has those 3 games, though? Every team looks back in a season and says, okay, Luke Fader wants to know, who are the top 5 players you're re-signing in the offseason?
This is a toughie here because the Dolphins are going to have a ridiculous amount of cap space. I believe it's
$70 million, right?
I can't remember. Steve Ross always loves to spend. But this is one of those years where you're going to have to break off some of your good players. Emmanuel Ogbah. Woo! Right now, I used to think that they were going to have to use a franchise tag on Mike Gesicki. Not anymore. Emmanuel Ogbah is 1 sack away from getting to 10 sacks. Players who deliver 10 sacks in the NFL, especially after they deliver 9 sacks, they get broken off, Dave. That's a $15 million a year stratosphere. Now, hopefully you can get a deal done because the franchise tag, I believe, is 19 for pass rushers. So it's cheaper to get the deal done. Mike Gesicki, you know how I feel about this, Dave.
Well, if the way they've used him the last 2 games, which is basically run out in the flat, and his role is diminished, and Durham Smythe's role, or at least the production, has increased. So. Yep.
And I just was left unpleased, and as I expected to be. But I get what they're trying to do. I understand it. It's but you add a real receiver to this team, and Mike Gesicki, and a real tight end. I'm a big O.J. Howard fan. He's going to be coming free from Tampa Bay. That's maybe $7-8 million.
Sticking with Alabama. Yeah.
Yeah. Why wouldn't I?
Right.
Why wouldn't I?
Right. But yeah, they're gonna have other questions. Matt Collins, he'd be a guy I'd re-sign. Okay, he's not gonna be a big money guy. You want a guy like that on your team for all the reasons we've talked about. And you saw
Nick Needham. Nick Needham is going to be
another guy. Absolutely.
I have had people in the league ask me about Nick Needham, and my response is, this is only heard on X's and Omar's. Don't tell the Dolphins this. Sign him. Whatever the Dolphins tender him to, if it's not a first-round pick, sign him because he's a starting cornerback in this league. He's going to be playing in this league for a very long time, and he's playing at a high level right now.
Yeah.
And you can get a good starting quarterback for $30 million. That do what it takes to sign. And the Dolphins need to start considering that because Nick is very valuable for this team. I mean, he's the guy who replaced Javon Holland. He's the guy who's in nickel. He's the guy who's on the boundary. Nick moves around more than just about anybody else on the team.
And he's the guy who you brought up from nothing, and you've tried to replace him time and time. And he keeps winning out. That's the guy you want. He's a competitor. You want that guy. You want to invest in that guy.
They leave him for dead every offseason, and he just resurrects himself. And much like this. But he's a superstar. Nick is a superstar. Trifecta's got a good question, Dave. Miami's previous administration failed to create the offense that Ryan Tannehill needed to thrive. Tennessee did it for Tannehill, and he led them to the AFC Championship game and multiple playoff wins, Dave. Will this be Groundhog's Day again for the Dolphins, trying to build a team that can win with a specific quarterback?
Well, I mean, I hope everybody's learned. I wrote a column. Has everybody learned their lesson? okay, with Tannehill. It wasn't him. It was the people around him. Omar.
A lot of people around him, though, Dave. A lot of people around him.
He left the Dolphins. The next year, he's in the AFC Championship game. Yes, it's the people around him. I agree. That's my point. If you don't have 4 or 5 quarterbacks, if you don't have one of them,
okay,
you're gonna have a hard time winning the Super Bowl. First of all, okay, yes. But second of all, your only shot is to have what Tennessee did. You know, they didn't do it for Ryan Tannehill. They did it for Mariota, and Tannehill came in and beat him out. Okay, but they had Derrick Henry. Now they don't have Derrick Henry this Sunday. That is a big that's a big issue, not only for Tennessee but for this Dolphin defense, because the one place the Dolphin defense is vulnerable when they go that zero blitz, when they go all out, is somebody busting through the line and they're gone. Okay, and they haven't really come against anybody who has the capability of doing that. Okay, and so Derrick Henry could have done it. Okay, yeah. And so they can run their defense the way they like to do it, be as aggressive as they.
I have an issue with people saying that the Dolphins didn't build a good or adequate team around Ryan Tannehill, because last I checked, they had Lamar Miller, they had Jay Ajayi, they had rushing attacks.
Omar, the one season they were good with Tannehill is when they did have Jay Ajayi, when they had the rushing attack. Other than that,
it was also that. Now, mind you, the Dolphins had 3 first-round picks on Tannehill's offensive line. Mike Pouncey, Laramie Tunsil, Jawan James. They invested in their offensive line. It just so happened that all of them were injured at different particular times that impacted Tannehill. But, you know, he had weaponry. Mike Wallace, Jarvis Landry. Hell, don't disrespect Brian Hartline, the best wide receiver coach in college football right now. 2,000-yard receivers. You know, the year they brought in Cameron Jordan or Jordan Cameron, whichever one he is.
He was awful. He was awful.
He was concussed.
Charles Clay was an average at best NFL
player. Charles Clay was at one point a top 100 player in the NFL.
Come on, you're like backtracking here. Look, he had the line wasn't good for him, okay, except for 2006. You called them the unicorns. That
2016,
they were good. And when they were good, the Dolphins were good.
He's still the second most sacked quarterback in the NFL. So
that is an issue. He's been sacked 45 times in Tennessee. That's a lot. That's a lot.
He's got horrible pocket presence. No field for pressure.
Right. Okay.
And that's never going to change. That's who he is. So you can build. Tennessee's got a tremendous offensive line. You can build a brick wall in front of him. He's still going to be one of the top 5 sack quarterbacks in the league.
Omar, let me crystallize this to one question. As now the number 2 seed in the AFC, you will be fitting him for a jacket in Canton. Okay, you will be saying this is the greatest quarterback in Dolphin history, and that's what. All I'm saying is that's what Tannehill's done in Tennessee. He's been the quarterback there. You hoped he would here, and why is that? Because he's got better talent around him. He's got
Henry. He's got the best running back in the league.
He did. He had him. Right.
Now,
okay. Yeah, I agree. Yes,
he's got hell of weapons. He's got a ridiculous amount of weapons in Tennessee in terms of wide receivers, tight end. It's an arsenal there. And yes, here's the thing about Tannehill, and we'll discuss a lot about Tannehill in the next segment. He was maturing under Gase. Then he got hurt. Yeah. Maturing under Gase, got hurt again. And played well, got hurt again. And that was just the arc of his career. He's healthy in Tennessee. So, but the Patience Brigade, they waited 7 years. And he's finally the quarterback that they envision him to be. But let me ask you this question. If you replace him with Tua right now, would this team be any different?
Would they be any better or any worse?
Correct. Yeah. Would they be?
So in other words, by your question, you're saying Tua is Tannehill.
He's Tua is just as good as
Tannehill. But to answer the question, then, if that's the case, it's Groundhog's Day, because you've done all these changes, all this capital, and you're back to Tannehill.
I mean, in year 2, I'm okay with that. In year 2 of his career, like Tua's never sniffed. I mean, Tannehill's never sniffed to his level of play in year 2. He
was a different player out of college. He hadn't played quarterback hardly at all. I mean, yeah. Why are you still attacking Tannehill? I don't get this.
I'm not attacking Tannehill.
Everybody who thinks he's attacking Tannehill, give a thumbs up right now. We'll see.
Listen, all I'm saying, let's move on to the next thing. You ever had an ex come back to haunt you, make you reconsider your life choices? Since the breakup with Ryan Tannehill, he's gone on to live a very happy existence. He's remarried. He's got new kids. He's gone on, had advancements in his career. He's doing quite well for himself in Tennessee, while the Dolphins are here dwelling at the exact same spot that he left them in. So, did you ever wonder if Miami made a mistake giving up on Tannehill too soon? And ask yourself, was the Patience Brigade right, Dave?
For Tannehill was he's good enough if everybody around him's good enough. Okay, that was I rode that line into the ground. Okay, and by the end, even I was saying, look, he's been hurt. It's just time to move on. 7 years, it's time to move on. But yes, you look what he's done in Tennessee. That was the model for him, the hope for him with the Dolphins.
And they failed building it.
They failed building it. Absolutely.
And but my question is, I would rather a second-year Tua to a 7th-year Ryan Tannehill.
That's very fair. Absolutely. And the other question is, the larger question, can you win if all you're talking about, if you're winning big, meaning win big, not win a playoff game, not get to the play, can you win the Super Bowl if you sit here and all
one of the best fourth quarter quarterbacks in the NFL since leaving Miami, like top 3. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but he's been sensational in the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter victories piling up, and a lot of people give the credit to Derrick Henry, but his team still has 10 wins, losing the best running back in the NFL. You got to put some respect on it now. But what I will say is, put him on this Dolphins team with an elite defense, no offensive line, no running game, one weapon, one wide receiver, and Devontae Parker, who might give you 12 games a season, and then Mike Gesicki, who he's okay. I know people will be offended by the fact that I call Mike Gesicki okay, but he is. I don't think they're in position to
one thing that Tua doesn't do that would help here. Okay, he's averaging over 5.4 yards a carry. He can run the ball. Okay, what do you mean?
He's got a strong arm too. I took for granted. I will say this about the Dolphins' ex. At the beginning of his career, Ryan Tannehill lived off 15-yard outs. Out passes to the boundary and the sidelines. Those were what he threw 40% of the time because that was his comfort level. That he couldn't read defenses early in his career, so he threw the pass that nobody could really defend. Tua, even though he did throw it against the Saints, he did throw one. That's not his wheelhouse. That's not his strength. And I took for granted Tannehill's arm the entire time he was here. I just assumed everybody had that arm. And no, they don't have that arm. Tua is Chad Pennington. He is going to kill you with accuracy, anticipation, timing, pinpoint passes. But when he needs to gun it in there, might not happen. Tannehill, it does happen. And that's how he survived and sustained and thrived in Tennessee. He has had to make big throws, and he has done it. And props to him. The problem that I have for Dolphin fans are, you were never in a happy marriage. At some point, when you're not in a happy marriage and you're not happy, you got to go out and pursue happiness. You got to run the streets, Dave.
Why weren't you in a happy marriage, Omar? Why weren't you? The problem, it wasn't all Tannehill. It was a lot of the people watching Tannehill. You should have been saying what you're saying with Tua, which is get better players around him, get better system for him, and
the feeling that I have with Tua as opposed to Tannehill. When you improve the team around Tua, I believe that they've got a greater ceiling. There's the glass ceiling was only going to take you so far with Tannehill.
It took him to the AFC Championship game. Okay. Yeah. Gary wants to know, Tannehill's savvy enough to identify our zero blitz and find the quick route, the hot route to beat the coverage. How would you game plan to stop their offense?
Yeah. This is going to be an interesting game because the way the Dolphins attack defenses generally, Tannehill is one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL at recognizing blitz and throwing to his hots and trying to avoid pressure. It's the pressure. If he sees the pressure, he can avoid it. It's the pressure he can't see that he can't avoid. And that's why it's going to have to be on these cornerbacks in the secondary. They're going to have to play happen. He's going to get a high volume of throws in his direction because Tannehill can identify the pressures. Byron Jones is going to have to be on his best. You can't have those breakdowns that we saw against the Saints or you attempting to get a ball or make a tackle and miss. And, in this defense, you miss, it's feast time because there's nobody back there. So Javon Holland is going to have to play his best game of the season because he's the last line of defense, and Tannehill will put his playmakers in position to beat that one-on-one. If Julio Jones comes back from COVID, you're going to have Julio Jones versus Byron Jones, and I don't like those odds.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Julio Jones. A.J. Brown, to me, that's what are you going to do with him? There's the issue. When they come out, are they going to say, okay, Xavier one-on-one him? Are they going to say we're going to bracket him and we're going to let?
No, Xavier's on it, baby. Xavier would want that.
Yeah, that's the only player on their offense. I'm going to say, okay, here we go. He's got almost double the targets as anybody else. And when you think of where look at last week, I think he had 11 catches. When he came back, the offense took off. So he's Tannehill's target. He's the guy that the Dolphins have to say, how are we going to minimize him / take him out of the game? And that's what I'm curious to see how.
I know and believe that Tannehill's smart enough to know who Xavier Howard is, and the fact that he's terrorized him in practice previously, during their tenure together. He knows. You might take advantage of him, but put that ball a little shade off or a little behind the receiver, or make it a 50-50 ball, and that's Xavier's. And so that's why you're going to see Xavier. So that means Tannehill's going to have to make sure that he's sharp.
All right, Cameron Sparks has our final question. Which defensive lineman for the Dolphins will cause the Titans the most problems? Also, what's your prediction on total number of team sacks?
Well, right now, the Dolphins lead the NFL in sacks. That 8-sack performance by the Saints put them right up there at the top. And even though Josh Boyer has said for 2 years, sacks aren't important. Sack numbers aren't important. It's pressures, it's hurries, it's speeding up the quarterback. Now he's taking a victory lap because he's sitting up there on the throne. And it's a props to them. Emmanuel Ogbah is going to have to be on his best. But this is going to be a Jalen Phillips game. If the Dolphins have a way of allowing Jalen Phillips to create havoc on the Tennessee Titans, you got to get pressure on Tannehill, particularly from his blind side. He is not very good at feeling pressure. And the Dolphins aren't that team that can get pressure up the gut. So it's going to have to be on Jalen Phillips to really wreak havoc against their left tackle, Taylor Lewan, if he comes back, or David Quinsonberry, if he's going to be starting. This is going to be a Jalen Phillips game. I put the sombrero, as they used to say during the Paul Pasqualoni days, the sombrero's on him. He's got to perform.
Yeah, I mean, the question, it's hard to know how to answer that because right now the Titans are without 3 offensive linemen. Okay, they went a very makeshift line last week against San Francisco. If they have to do that against the Dolphins, that presents all sorts of opportunities for the Dolphins to take advantage of. Okay, and what you see from the Dolphins rushes is they decide who's going to, and there's another COVID issue, but the question becomes, where do the Dolphins want to attack depending on who's available for the Titans? If they're missing Taylor Lewan, that's a huge miss for the Titan offense and Tannehill, and that's someplace you can attack. I mean, we're going to have to wait to see who's lining up.
You know what the Dolphins do in this exotic blitz, this amoeba, this 7-man pressure and front package that they're doing? Wherever the offensive line slides their protection, they bring it the other way. And it's very, it's very covert. It's very intelligent. And I as I've said previously on the show, my favorite thing about Sundays is seeing what their defensive game plan and approach is. And I'm usually not let down. And I am dying to see the approach against Ryan Tannehill. A guy who can handle pressure when he sees it, but not feel it when he can't see it. And there are your 2 quarterbacks. One's taking 45, one's taking 15.
Okay, one's on an 11-win team and one's not. I mean, Tannehill brings something to the table, okay? And he will be the toughest quarterback they've faced since Lamar Jackson. I mean, that's going back a month and a half, right?
Might be the toughest quarterback they've faced since Lamar Jackson. Tom Brady, that guy. The debate that I've always had and I've always wondered is, where do you put Tannehill with Derek Carr, who Joe Philbin wanted to draft?
What's Derek Carr won?
Some playoff games. That's it.
I don't know. He's even won playoff games, has he?
Yeah,
he hasn't taken a team to the AFC title game.
No. Tannehill.
He's not been the second seed of the AFC.
You're popping Tannehill's collar here.
No, I'm just saying. When you say who would you rather have, Derek Carr? Second year, they're never going to be in that top 5.
Is Tannehill in the top 10?
Well, I mean, you look what he's done the last 3 years.
Get him in the top 10.
Yeah, I would say he's in he's 10, 11, something like that. 9, 10, 11, and Derek Carr, again, what's he won? I mean, he's played long enough where you look at him and you say, what's he won? Okay, it's not like he's 2 years in the league. So
it's good enough, though. Good enough to win if you can put a team around them. So, Dave, let's get to the predictions. This is the fun time of the year. We've got 2 more games left. I don't even know where we sit in the Sun Sentinel prediction standing, but I am going to actually predict the Dolphins to win. I feel like there's a laser locked in focus unless new players hit that COVID list, unless other than practice, upset unless it's virtually. He'd be getting deliveries at home every day.
Bubble Boy, make him Bubble Boy. You know where he.
Yeah.
Right?
Jesse Davis has to be Bubble Boy or Robert Hunt because it gets ugly without Jesse Davis.
There's a larger question here for the NFL. At what point, if you're a team, do you do what the NBA did, which was lockdown? You know, the NBA had a lockdown. At what point, if you're an NFL team, and hey, look what happened at Indianapolis. Carson Wentz is on the COVID. He's going to miss
Yeah, but the rules changed, so more than likely he's going to get off the COVID list. You got 5 days of isolation. If you put him on the COVID list on Tuesday, and I don't think this is right. I really don't. As somebody who's got my own COVID scare and dealing with it from my work environment, my wife's work environment, my work environment, my daughter's nursery's closed because baby had COVID.
Well, the Dolphins were fortunate. They had 5 or 6 guys test positive on Tuesday and not Monday, right?
Correct. And you know, it gives you. No, I think everybody would have been. If nobody tested today, if you test today or Thursday, yeah, you're donezo for the game.
All right, my prediction. I mean, I have to predict Tennessee's 11 wins right now, or 11 wins. 10 wins. Okay, they are at home. They're at home. They're a veteran. I can see a path to an upset. I see how this Dolphin defense can control, but I got to pick Tennessee like 20-17, something like that. And you know, just from where they are and where their season is and where the game is. This, you know, this Dolphins season, when we look at the schedule set up, a lot of these games are at home. A lot of the So I see the path for an upset, but I have to pick Tennessee.
Yeah, I that's the one thing I did get from New Orleans is such a loud venue and hostile environment. And I really admired the way that the Dolphins handled it. They didn't have, there was one play where they really had a moment and Tannehill nearly had a panic, not Tannehill, Tua nearly had a panic attack trying to get Devontae Parker in the right position and had to call the timeout. But their communication was good. Tua talked about getting to the line of scrimmage early. They got to the line of scrimmage early. You know, and you know, even though, you know, it was a 4th string quarterback, there was nothing wrong with New Orleans' defense. They were playing pretty good, and the Dolphins did enough. They did enough, and they didn't.
The Saints, I don't want to get into it. The Saints defense without 4 starters. Okay, so there was something wrong with the Saints defense. Okay, I mean, let's
guys get hurt.
It was
could have easily went the other way.
No, it couldn't have. There's no way.
Tua could have got hurt.
There's no way. Right after that pick 6 to start the game, there's no way New Orleans was going to score a touchdown. They could still be playing. They weren't going to score a touchdown on the Dolphins defense.
All right, they weren't. They could have picked up a fumble and returned it for a touchdown.
You're right. That was the question. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Alvin Kamara could have broke one big one.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for watching X's and Omar. We are here every Wednesday at noon. Happy New Year's to you. You can find the show on the Sun Sentinel website and anywhere you find podcasts. You could also find it on YouTube if you're a European fan and you're blocked from visiting Sun Sentinel. And one day, hopefully, we will get that addressed.
Hey, what are your New Year plans? Tell everybody your New Year plan. What's the big plan, Omar?
We're still negative tests to make sure that we're not quarantined. We quarantined all Christmas, except for me traveling for the game. But I tested negative twice, so I'm safe. But it's a wild world out here. I will be home with my family. It's crazy out here in terms of the amount of COVID infections. Think about this. Professional sports teams are testing on a regular basis. The whole teams are catching it. What do you think is happening out there in the general public?
What do you think's happening in the stadiums?
Yeah.
They're worried about their teams, but their fans, whatever.
And I was on the streets of New Orleans, not much, but there were no masks. No, people talk about Miami bad. There were no masks in New Orleans. They do not believe in masking up in the South. And hey, props to you, but I was out on these streets with my mask on, and I'm trying to keep safe. I haven't. At noon.